And we're live. Hello, everyone. I am here with Eric Paskel, who I will introduce in just a moment. I'll let some people log on. I'm Noelle Stearns. I am at 1440 Multiversity in Santa Cruz, California. It's a gorgeous day here today. And before we start this interview with Eric, I'm going to do something exciting and show you what 1440 looks like today. It's a gorgeous day. All right, so again, I'm Noelle Stearns. If you're just logging on and saying hello, please give us some likes, some hearts. We would love to hear from you. I'm Noelle Stearns at 1440 Multiversity, and I will go ahead and introduce our amazing rock star of a guest today. So we have Eric Paskel. He's an international yoga teacher. I want to call him a rock star yoga teacher. He has so much energy, and I haven't even met you in person yet, but I can feel it off the screen. He's also a marriage and family therapist and a sports counselor, to just name a few. Eric, thank you so much for being with us today. And hello.
Anytime I can get introduced like that, I'll do anything just for that kind of introduction. It was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. He's actually going to be teaching here at 1440 Multiversity. In a couple months, I believe I have you in, September 15th through 17th. We'll talk a little bit more about your program later on, but I'm hoping we can get kind of an insider's look into Eric Paskel. Like, how did you get started in this whole yoga world? I hear you're from Michigan, is that right?
Yeah, I'm a Detroit guy. I didn't have an early easy go of it. My childhood, which is relevant. Some of you are like, my God, he's talking about himself as a child. She was just asking how he got into the. I got to go back because I just always felt a weird discomfort as long as I can remember. Kind of like that feeling of being out of place. Mm-hmm. Even though I was somebody that always had people around and friends around, I just always felt different. I felt like I was going to be found out. I didn't know what you were going to find, but you weren't going to like it. And I didn't like it either. And so I carried that feeling for years into my teenage years as well. And that it wasn't comfortable. And that led me to a drug addiction, which ultimately, thank goodness, led me to working through that. And in the process of working through that, I began to develop a personal practice. I didn't know at the time that there was a real name for it. But it was called recovery. It was like I was recovering from that childhood, from that drug addiction. And really the practice just for me entailed really needing to be around healthy, like-minded people, people that weren't afraid to be themselves, people that weren't afraid to share secrets and talk about things that were really going on. And in the process of being in that kind of brother or sisterhood, that community, that tribe, I really felt completely whole, which is something I never felt before. And I found out that the more I shared about what I thought you were going to be scared to hear and what you wouldn't love about me, those were the reasons why you did love me. It was just a strange kind of oxymoron. Right. And I worked like this all the way through college. So I had a whole different college career because when people were running out and going to bars and doing that stuff, I did some of that stuff, but I was more about studying people and trying to figure out how to relate to every type of person and how to fit in by not whoring myself and giving myself away. And after years of doing that, one thing led to another. I have a very dear friend. His name is Brian Kest. Many of you who are listening know him. I was in LA. He had been wanting me to come to yoga class for years. I was like, no, yoga schmoga. I'm not doing this bullshit and, whatever. And I never forget, I was in the best shape of my life. I was in my mid-20s. I made it through about 7 minutes of that yoga class, and I rolled up my mat. I flipped him off, and that was it. I didn't. It took me 4 years basically to get back to a yoga class, and the only reason why I went is because they had moved back from to Michigan from California, and this was around 1998. And it was freezing in Michigan, and just lots of changes. I had my first child, and someone mentioned going to a yoga class, and of course I was like, man, no way. And the person who asked me said, well, what else are you going to do? It's Michigan and it's like December. And I said, well, that's a good point. And at that point in my life, I really kind of had already known enough about myself that if I really didn't like something, if something really pushed my buttons, it was probably really good for me. So I made a 90-day commitment to go to 90 classes in 90 days to figure out why I hated yoga. And that's where it all kind of came together.
Really? Did you actually complete that 90 days? Did you?
Yeah, and I'm talking like when I say I did 90 classes in 90 days, first of all, I did 90 classes in 90 days. Secondly, after the 90 days, I don't think I still actually physically completed even close to half a class. I mean, I never forget in sun salutations, I could maybe do one full sun salutation. I'm in great shape. I was playing hockey. I'm a skier, gym, basketball, you name it. But in a yoga class, I mean, when I was in down dog, I saw stars. I just couldn't handle it. And I fought through it. And we're talking about basically 90 days of Ashtanga almost, because that was kind of what was being offered.
Right.
So I couldn't wait to get done with the sun salutations. What?
That's a more kind of intense, rigorous type of yoga, right?
Yeah, that's really where power yoga found its way and where vinyasa yoga found its way. And it's very rigid and disciplined. And I'm very, I'm Guns N' Roses and, floaty and flighty when it comes to how to settle me down. I don't get settled by someone taping me to a chair, which has literally happened to me multiple times in my school years where teachers taped me to my chair. That didn't mellow me out. But getting rid of some of that energy in a healthy way brought me in. So Ashtanga was not my thing.
Mm-hmm. Is it still that way?
I honestly was just thinking, I had a new student in class yesterday, and she was cracking me up, and I was cracking her up, and there was this dialogue going, because I have so much respect for people trying something new. First of all, most people are just stuck doing the same old, or they're doing nothing. But to walk into a yoga class, especially not really being ready for it physically, and to kind of hold space, to me, I mean, that's inspiring. I'm not inspired by people that can come and do handstands and headstands and, flip themselves around and break dance and not break a sweat. I'm interested for someone who I say, let's reach our arms up over our head. And that's hard to do. Yeah. And they're sitting there doing it because I know it's so different for them. And the effort they're putting out in front of everyone else where I know they're feeling less than and heavier and a different color, whatever it may be, and they're in it, that's what gets me. That's why I do this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, for me, like, it took me years. I was telling her it took me probably 4 years for me to kind of not hate yoga. I kind of, like, the 4-year part physically, when I broke the 4-year mark, I kind of was like, oh, this kind of feels good. Right. Like I kind of liked being in class a little more. I always felt good afterwards, but it was hell. I mean, I go to a mountain, it could be in the worst weather. You put skis under my feet and it's always a good run. Right. But yoga class, man, it was not like that. So it was a lot of work for me.
What made you keep going? I mean, if I did something that I really felt like it wasn't for me, honestly, I might quit after even a couple classes or something. I would just, I don't know. So what is it about you or yoga that kind of kept you going and, keep going back to class?
It's a good question. And I mean, it's really a couple different things that were poignant and why it is that I stayed and why yoga's become so life-saving for me is that I'm I'm like Houdini. I'm a magician at fooling myself. I might not fool you, but I'm really good at fooling Eric.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm great at doing is busying myself and moving around a lot, talking a lot, and not realizing what's really going on with me. And
Mm,
I'm a master at getting immediately out of something that's uncomfortable. But there's such value in holding a space of discomfort, and there's such value of staying still where you can become so much more aware of what's going on and so much more in touch with so many things that I stuck around because as much as I hated it, I recognized the value of it. And
mm,
that's what I have to sell to someone who's new in class. Because if they're not buying that, there's no way they're coming back. So I did that myself because my teacher didn't know how to sell that, but I had enough awareness, which is why one of my passions in teaching is teaching new people and really marketing to people who don't do yoga. I'm not that interested in people who do yoga. I'm more interested in people that don't do yoga because I understand why you don't do it,
right.
and I think I can help. So those two reasons were huge, and then really the third one was I was recognizing, just physically speaking, that at 30 years old, which is when really I started my asana practice, that I was already feeling things in my body that I did not want to feel. The trajectory of going like downhill, I
Mm,
could see in other people. You know, I could look around and even see, for me at 30 years old, I was in the best shape of all my friends, but I could see where they had headed and were heading and our culture in general. And I was looking at yoga just objectively. And I really asked myself an important question, which I ask people to ask themselves all the time. What's more important, you liking something or something being healthy for you?
mm,
Because I'm done caring whether or not I like something. That's icing on the cake. Great, Eric, if you like this and it's healthy for you, wow, that's nice. But Eric, shut up and do this. If this is healthy for you, do it and shut up. I can't afford to worry about what Eric likes because Eric generally likes things that aren't healthy for him,
mm,
and he doesn't like things that are healthy for him. And I found that most people are the same way. The things we actually like aren't really that good for us, and the things we don't like are wonderful for us. So yoga helps us shift that paradigm. Those few minutes on the mat, which is really, I mean, 60, even a 90-minute class is nothing, you know, in the scheme of a day, to start to learn how to relate to or integrate discomfort in a healthy way. How do I kind of redefine what discomfort is? Because when I say the word discomfort, everybody's like, yeah, I know what that is. I don't like that. You know, ooh, that's an ooh. But the way I look at discomfort, I hear the word and I'm like, ah,
mhm.
because there's been nothing in my life I can think of that's worth a shit that ever came from pleasure, 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 easy, 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 easy. Nothing. I mean, listen, if you and I get together and we design a new program of life, I'm sure we would do it differently. It'd be like, hey, everybody, do what you like and you'll be all happy. Do what you like and you'll get what you want. But the way that I've seen it is that you do what you don't want to do.
Mhm.
You go where you don't want to go. Um, and you wind up kind of landing in the place you always wanted to be,
Mm.
which is weird, you know?
Yeah, well said. Do you think it's like that for everyone, or do you think that works for you in particular people?
I think there's a range,
Hmm.
but I'm an everyone kind of guy. There's nothing that I've seen in this world, and I've traveled it multiple times over. I've really never seen anybody that's different. I mean, when you're not looking at skin and shape and, you know, superficial crap, and you're talking to people, there's nobody really different. There are people that things seem to come easier to, and I can go into a whole philosophy of that, but it's not the time or the place. We might do it over the weekend. I'm sure some of you will have questions, and we'll talk about that stuff. But for now, all we need to really know is that some people have it easier for them in different ways and some people have it harder. Generally, the people that have it harder don't take the time to learn how to make things easier for them. They actually fight against that and make things even more hard and difficult for themselves. But overall, everybody goes through those times, whatever those times are. Hold on, I hear my a lawn guy just came into my. I mean, so I think those people, once, no matter what happens, I just talking to someone the other day, very, very successful, wealthy person, and extremely happy until their daughter had a drug addiction. It's that kind of happiness where, yeah, we can be temporarily happy with getting everything we want, and some people are able to get all of that. But if any of those things change, then so does the happiness. So yeah, I think we're all in a space of discomfort, and we need to learn how to extract the teachings there and use that to kind of catapult ourselves into the upper echelons of life.
Yeah, really well said. So now bringing this into perspective of your yoga classes, I believe you teach both other yoga instructors, right, as well as open classes. So do you find, well, let's go to your program here at 1440. So there's the weekend. Is that for everyone? Is that just for yoga instructors? Is that?
No, it's definitely for everybody. I always say that in like italics and quotes because, it's not for everybody in the sense for those that really don't have the interest in this. If someone wants to move and learn and talk and meet people and is open to kind of maybe finding some things out that might be new and exciting about them, offloading some things that don't need to be carried around, and kind of be in a cheerful environment. Yeah, it's definitely for you. You notice in the things that I do, there's never any really prerequisites and there's not level systems because we're in an age where, and I'm one of these people, quite honestly, where I'm on the low end only because I'm not that smart, but there's a lot of smart people out there. I'm not really one of them, but who hold a lot of good information and are charismatic and good with connecting with people. That information doesn't really necessarily create transformation. Information doesn't automatically create transformation. So there's a lot of smart, charismatic, really wonderful people that still are suffering themselves. So the reason why there's no level systems is because it's like, well, if you've taken this before, it's not for you. Or if you've done this program again, or if you're a teacher, this is beginning. No, if you're a teacher, you need to go back to the beginning because you're already crazy. Teacher and insanity these days is synonymous. We have people in my profession, I'm in both professions, psychologists and yoga teachers. It's not to bash them. It's to hold a space that it's okay that even though we're helping people, we still have to help the most important person, and that's ourselves. And it's easy to get lost in that. And many of us are really, 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 really suffering as helpers and leaders and are afraid to own up because not only does it bash our ego and it has a hold of us, but then we're scared we're going to lose our business. So this is for everybody. You will find some.
Eric, your sound's getting a little cut off. I don't know. It was fine. That's
better?
Great. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna freeze here.
Yeah, that's perfect. I am getting a question from our viewers. Can we go ahead and take that? We have Lisbeth saying, information doesn't automatically create transformation. Yeah, that was a great line. Eric, that's good stuff right there. Can you talk about how people make the jump from information to transformation? What are the top 3 tips to make that jump?
Liz Beth, that is an incredible, first of all, good news for you. Someone who knows how to ask a question like that, that kind of question, that posits the conversion mechanism from information to transformation. So you're already ahead of the game. Let me go back first and tell you this, to just flush this out. Knowledge is sight. Wisdom is insight. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is transformation. Knowledge is knowing. Wisdom is doing. So when we coin it those terms, you're looking for the mechanism that converts all of that. Each one of us is composed of a mind, which is really our emotions. The mind is impulsive. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just impulsive. It only cares about what it wants now. It rambles. It's always looking ahead and behind. Okay? And we are also born with an intellect. And the intellect is that which can ask questions. It deciphers, discerns. It knows how to reflect and reason. So what we're seeing, Lizbeth, in the world, in ourselves, because I'm claiming this for me too, I'm a work in progress, is we scratch our head because it's like, how could I know this and I'm still here? How could I tell that person what to do?
Not hearing what Eric.
And then
it's still a little bit cut off. Anyone watching, can you hear him okay? It could just be my connection.
What about now? I'll go back to where I was.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. Here I am. So the mechanism for the conversion is using your intellect. Did you hear me talk about the intellect?
Yes.
It's really building your intellect. And once you build your intellect, you are able to take the information you know and utilize it. Because in philosophy and yoga, knowing and doing are the same thing. So if you say you know this and you don't put it to action, it's not knowing at all. So how do you then, Lizbeth is going to ask, how do you build an intellect? There's 3 basic ways, real simply. You start a daily study practice. 30 minutes you wake up every day before. You take what you're studying. It's not a read. You're taking your time to read what the author is saying, to think about it, to ask questions, to reflect, and to contemplate. You do those things. Then you take nothing for granted throughout your day, every day. You're looking around and you're wondering. That wondering, that observing is bringing out your intellect. The third thing you do is in the evening, 5 minutes before you go to bed, you do introspection. It's an exercise. For those of you that can't sleep well, this will help you, even though it's not supposed to, because you're supposed to be up doing the exercise, not falling asleep. But at first, you will fall asleep, trust me. And that is just replaying the tape of the day every day. So what you do is you get into bed or get next to your bed and you ask yourself, so what time did I wake up today? Then what did I do? Then what did I do? And you're just observing. You're not analyzing, critiquing. Oh shit, I forgot to call somebody back. Now I better do it. Right. It's just going through it, because what you're doing is you're awakening this observer in you. And why you want to do that is because when you're in your day, we want to be more in that observer role so that we can process what's coming in, think about it, reflect upon it, and then send out the proper information back out so we're not getting ourselves in trouble. How we use the information we know to do whatever we need to do. If we're reacting impulsively, if there's not that separation, then we don't use that information, because all that's happening is throughout the day we're reacting to things. It's emotional, and emotion has no direction, no dimension. So those are the 3 steps to build your version from the knowledge to the wisdom is doing these 3 things, and it's reminding yourself that what you let me sit here.
Eric,
That's why you need a teacher. Yes.
the last sentence or so, the audio is going in and out, and we're getting a couple notes from. So can you maybe repeat the last thought you had? It's still out. It's interesting. It's like when you move to another space, and it kind of comes back, and then okay, we hear you
What
now.
about now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I'm not moving. I'm freezing. Last but not least is, and this is why teachers are so important, is
It's out again. Sorry to interrupt, but I know we want to hear what you're saying. And thanks everyone watching for.
Yeah, thanks for being patient. I'm going to take the headphones off, and maybe we'll just do speaker. That would be better. How about this? Is this okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. All right. So the last but not least thing is to have a teacher or a mentor, because we can borrow their intellects when ours don't function. So we can sit down with them, and all they really do is tell us what we already know for the most part and help us see that through. So with that kind of accountability and that kind of relationship, we begin to convert for ourselves a level of self-sufficiency where everything we know we begin to do. I hope that's helpful. Lizbeth, is that good?
Well, it was great for me. I have a question about
that. It's good
that.
for somebody.
Yeah, you mentioned having a teacher. I assume you mean someone that you can keep going back to, the same consistent one. So how can someone go about finding that teacher for themselves?
Great question again. Lots of good questions. My feeling in terms of the yoga world is that if anybody calls themselves a teacher, puts their name on a class and shows up, they have opened themselves. They're sending an invitation for everyone to be of service and to help. I'm not saying that you have.
Getting a little cut off again. Sorry.
How's this? Is this any better?
Yeah, that is. Now we can hear you again. Because when it goes out, it doesn't go in and out. It just kind of stops for some reason.
Maybe this will work better. I'm on speakerphone, but.
Okay, let's try this.
Yeah, so I just think you go to your teacher, someone you're attracted to, not physically necessarily at all. What I'm saying, go to someone that is inspirational, or you has something you think that you want to have, and talk to them, ask them, get to know them. That relationship is the most precious relationship in the world, but it has to be. You have to step into that. It's rare when people find you and single you out and say, I'd like to help you or talk to you. We're not in that position necessarily. But as a student, we're all in the position to approach our teachers and just say, I'd love to grab a tea, a coffee, whatever. I have this going on, or I want to learn more about you. I want to see if you're real. What goes on in your life. I'm just interested. Start that dialogue, and through that dialogue, you'll learn 2 things really fast. You'll get to see who's full of shit and who isn't, and you'll get to see who really cares and who doesn't, which is good for you. It's all a win-win because it cuts through the rhetoric of the fantasies that you're putting on people that may not deserve it, and it puts you in line with people that you really need to be around, because I don't know how people do it without teachers and community. There's so much we have to deal with in the world today within our own heads, that to not have someone that you're intimate with that really knows all of you, that is trustworthy and holds a space for you, seems awfully difficult to find out.
Yeah. And going more into the physical practice behind it, I believe you're the creator of Electric Soul Yoga, and your program title is Yoga Rocks Revolution. So can you talk a bit about what the electric soul or the rock and roll, kind of how that ties into your classes? But can you adjust your phone again? Again, it's the sound got cut out. There we go. Oh, no. Sorry. Yeah, still not. No. No. Let's see. Oh. It worked for just a moment. Maybe just a millimeter shift. No, interesting.
I'm just going to keep walking around and talking until you can hear me.
There you go.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So the program, like music for me, when I started doing yoga, there was really no music in class. It was, like birds chirping and the ocean waves and wind and chimes and gongs and flutes and so that was very unfamiliar because most people don't listen to that stuff throughout the day, and most people never work out with that music. So one of the barriers I was trying to break in helping people connect with yoga was to bring in elements into class or remove elements out from class that weren't part of the norm in terms of conventional workouts. So, and plus I'm a huge music fan. I mean, music is like, you turn a song on, how powerful turn on. I just was doing a private with somebody today, and I turned on these songs I knew from their generation. And it was like, one of them started crying at the end, talking about her brother. And it was just because the song came on. She's like, so bad. There's nothing I did. So number one, the music makes me a better teacher because I'm not that good. You turn on a good song, it makes me way better. Secondly, it inspires people. It moves people. It brings things up. Even if it's not things you like or memories you like, then you have more work to do. So it really makes a yoga class hearty to me. That's why music. It wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't to forget about how important it is to be introspective or the work we need to do. It was actually to help us do that work. And I like to circle around different genres because there's also different people that come to class, and really the class isn't so much about me. It's really about the students. And so I'm always refining playlists and looking for music that's going to connect to the group as a whole.
And I have a comment from Camellia saying, making yoga approachable via unconventional music. Brilliant. I think so too. So, and the style of movement, do you fall under a specific, hatha or vinyasa, or is it its own thing?
Those that are watching, generally, it's a vinyasa yoga that comes like this weekend. We'll have, not everything is going to be high intensity in terms of the physicality. Flowy yoga words are like, I have a few different colors. Some are brighter classes, some are darker classes, some are more dynamic, some are quieter, some are louder. It's like, so, but there is a flow to it generally. Not all the classes have sun salutations. They're not all really hot. So, because again, in the end of the day, it's really not about your physicality. Yoga is about your mentality. I mean, that's where it's really not about your physicality. It's if standing on your head could make you a perfect person, I'd have no problems right now. And neither would all the people that know how to stand on their head. But, yoga is really more about, and forgive the crassness, it's about taking your head out of your ass. That's what it's about. And so I try to make sure the classes are physically challenged because the physical challenge makes you have to work in a different capacity. Otherwise, we all could take a walk around that beautiful campus you just showed us, and we could hold hands, and we could talk, and that could be great. But most of us need a little kickstart. And when you're kind of grinding it up and mixing it up in a yoga class, it's a little tough. It brings things to the surface. And once they're there, then we have a platform to really start to talk about them. And also, you get to have a moment to really work through them all by yourself, which at the end of the day is what we're all having to face at times because, we're on our own to a great degree.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So to reiterate what you said in the beginning, or towards the beginning, your program at 1440 Multiversity is, you're welcoming both beginners and teachers and everyone in between. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you'll need to start walking around again. Sorry to interrupt, but let's wait for it. Wait for it. No. Oh, right there. Can you back up 2 steps? No, I'm sorry, it's still
weird. What about now?
Okay. Yes, great.
Okay. So we're not saying that the program's for everybody because it's a marketing ploy. We're saying it's for everybody because it is for everybody because of the education, the things that we're working on, the exposure to some of
We're missing this last part.
right now. Good.
Okay, now good. Yes.
I'm running out of house to walk on, and pretty soon I'm going to rent another house just to get some reception. And it's weird because it shows I have all these bars, but whatever. So it's for everybody because of the topics that we're really discussing, and because of the exercises we're doing with each other, ourselves, and then of course the physical exercises. There'll be a broad range. So from the strongest physical person to the one that's just starting, there'll be enough for everybody.
That's excellent. And I have a question from Barbara. What can be expected at your classes at 1440 in September? You went over a bit, but is there anything else you wanted to add on that?
Thank you, Babs, for checking in. Let me see. The specifics are there. There's going to be, I think the biggest 3 things that we're going to look at is relationships. How do we become flexible enough in our head and our heart to hold healthy relationships with all the people in our lives? That's going to take up a good chunk of time. We're going to spend, that's part of the revolution. It's not about throwing people out of your life you don't like or can't get along with. It's about growing up and learning how to get along with those people and loving them. Part of it. Another piece of that is going over the building of the intellect, which Lizbeth was talking about, so that we can use the information we already have. So forget about new information. I'm talking about, because I firmly believe this, most everybody has enough information right now to live the life they want to live, except they can't utilize the information. So we talk about how to create that within you that can transform all that information to wisdom. And then we're going to go over things like attachment is a big deal these days. Addiction will be spoken about. We'll talk a little bit about karma and causation, and essentially being the architect of your own fortune and misfortune. And we'll all do that with, believe me, a lot of jokes, a lot of laughs, some really great asana. We'll be doing some different breath work as well. So just to kind of accentuate what we can do with our bodies in a kind of static position and learn how to do our breath that way. So it's
You're getting a little bit cut off. Couldn't hear the last 3 seconds. Yeah. No.
Good. Okay. Just saying it's a little like a buffet. So there's going to be plenty of food for everybody. We're going to have to be careful on this weekend. We just don't overeat. That's going to be the biggest deal. You're going to get too much. And I have to slow us down from going that far. But it will be, those topics will be covered for sure and a lot more.
That's excellent. So I'll put the link up here in the video. So it's 1440.org/program/yoga-rocks-revolution. And then if you don't remember that, you can also go to 1440.org and search Eric Paskel. And again, his program is September 15th through the 17th, so that's a weekend program, Friday through Sunday, and that is here at 1440 Multiversity. I'll show it to you again. We are in Santa Cruz County, Scotts Valley, technically. So it's going to be a beautiful time. September is actually our secret second summer, and that's actually the most beautiful time, in my opinion, in Santa Cruz. So is there any last bit of insights or encouragement or anything you'd like to share, Eric?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you for the interview. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you, 1440, for having me. It's really an honor. It's hard to explain when someone asks you to facilitate something. It's an honor beyond honors, and I take it very seriously. And it also makes me have to work harder to be the guy that I want to be. So I'm a little more consistent myself and congruent with that vision I have with myself. And I will say this for everybody that's listening, or people that are winding up going to the websites. There's always something else to do. And there's always reasons why you can't get something done. And many of you come up with many wonderful reasons. I look at doing things like this for myself in a different way. I look at what's the reason I need to go. And usually that reason trumps everything else that I don't have or have to do. I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I didn't literally go into debt for my own personal self-help. If I didn't literally go into financial debt for my own business. If I didn't take risk, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I didn't tell my children on their birthdays many times, Dad's got to go do X, Y, and Z to save himself and to be a good father still. I've had to set those boundaries. This is not a path for the faint-hearted. If you really want to be the person you want to be and live the life you want to live, you're going to wind up pissing people off because you're not going to be doing what they want you to be doing. You're going to be doing what you need to be doing. And by doing that, you'll ultimately be surrounding yourself with people that do support you and do encourage you. And I really hope that you plow through any obstacles that you have right now in your head about doing this and get yourself there, because at the end of your life, you won't say, gosh, that 1440 really broke me. I didn't have the money, or that weekend was too long. I needed to be home. You'll be going through the rest of your life from this weekend going, where else can I get more from this great faculty and facility of 1440? And that's what we want to hear from you.
Well said. Thank you so much, Eric. We look forward to having you here in is it just a couple months from now. I think it's going to be a truly transformational weekend. And everyone that's listening, please go to our website. There's more information on the weekend and about 1440 for you to look at. So again, thank you so much, Eric. It's been a true pleasure today.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
See you. Bye-bye.